Hey everybody, and welcome back to Josh Lioce's video blog. This week we're talking about inflation. What is it and how can you use real estate to hedge against it? Stay right here, I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. So full disclosure, I am no financial expert. I've done some reading recently after some articles have come out about real estate and using it as a hedge against inflation. So let's start with what is inflation. Inflation is looking at a currency's loss of value or ability to purchase goods over a specific period of time, or the increase in the cost of those goods. And they do that by looking at a group or a basket of those goods and services and seeing what happens over that time frame and are they going up or going down. Now, according to Forbes magazine that came out in early March of 2022, the inflation rate based at the end of February 2022, looking back a year, was at 7.9%. Now, that's the highest it's been since January of 1982 when it was 7.5%. So obviously, high numbers of inflation. Now, who hates inflation more than we do? The Federal Reserve. Inflation is the number one enemy to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has two jobs, and that's to control inflation and maximize employment. Now, the Federal Reserve was a little slow in seeing that this was not going to just be a transitory situation with inflation. But over recent months, they've acknowledged the fact that, okay, inflation's probably sticking around, and they need to take a sustained monetary policy approach to making sure that they have some control, and it's not going to have huge impact on the labor markets or on the general economy overall. Is inflation going anywhere? No, high inflation is sticking around. As we talked about, inflation is growing at the fastest rate since the 1980s. The rate of inflation in February is driven by big gains in food, gasoline, and shelter, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, putting further pressure on the bottom lines of the average American family. So how do we use real estate to hedge against inflation? Well, let's first look at inflation's impact on debt. Now, as your home price rises, that loan to value of your mortgage debt decreases. So as your equity grows and continues to rise, your mortgage payment stays the same and continues to reduce, creating equity in that property. So it will help in regards to the savings that you're going to be forced to have with equity growth. Second, let's look at the inflation impact on rents. Very similar to the first one. Your property value is going to rise, and when rising prices happen, rents typically tend to go up. So if you're collecting more rent and you're having more income coming into the property, higher profit margins, but again, that mortgage is staying the same, that's going to increase that profit margin of that property. So rental properties are going to be a great way to use against that inflation. And third, let's look at the impact of inflation on values. Again, talking on the same lines. Home values have had steady increases over time. Even things during the crash of 07 and 08, after a decade, got back to their pre-crash values and far beyond. And in the last 2 years, we've seen a 35% increase in value alone. So just the growth of that asset and continually seeing that upward swing, even with those small dips in between, has shown that that value of that asset is going to be there for the long term. So even with inflation and even having that value of that dollar not worth the same in the marketplace, if you put that in real estate, you're going to be almost guaranteed tremendous growth in that value over time. So three similar areas that we can look at in regards to the impact on debt, the impact on rents, and the impact on value. But as you can see, real estate is, in many different ways, can be a really good, strong place to put your money to protect against that inflation in the marketplace. So again, certainly not a financial advisor. If this is something that you're interested in, speak to somebody who has a really good understanding of advice for you for your financial world, and certainly speak to your real estate advisor to talk about what types of property make sense for you, where's the best place to put your investment and put your money to ensure that it's protected against that awful word, inflation. So thank you so much for watching this week. Hopefully there's a little insight that I shed on the inflation world and what real estate is ability to do, I guess, against it. If you have any other questions, reach out. If there's any other topics that you'd like to see or you'd like to talk about, certainly reach out to me. And as always, thank you for watching Josh Lioce's video blog. Have a great day.